Good morning. My presentation is more of an investigation with regards to the relevance of open building to Egypt, and I will end the presentation with a set of questions that need to be addressed before we can consider open building for Egypt construction industry. As you all know, Egypt has a history of thousands of years where the Egyptians have been residing in the same place throughout those years. The only thing that was changing was the increase in population to reach 100 million inhabitants residing on only 5% of the total area of Egypt. This would mean that densities may exceed in some areas 50,000 inhabitants per square kilometers, and as you can see in the picture, there are no quality urban spaces that could be identified, nor are the indoor spaces in the housing units adequate in terms of natural ventilation and daylighting in most of these buildings. Another serious side effect is that the increase in population and the informal construction urbanization have eaten up the scarce agricultural land that we have. So the increase in population is estimated at 2% annual increase, and looking into the number of housing units needed annually, you can see the orange graph determines the number of marriages every year throughout the last 13 years, and the blue graph below, on the other hand, defines the number of new built in terms of housing that makes around 7 million housing units gap in housing in addition to the annual increase in population. The problem is not merely the provision of housing, but also the provision of employment and the challenges of commuting back and forth in such crowded cities as in Cairo. This, of course, raises further concerns with regards to the affordability of housing units. You can find demolitions of low-rise buildings and replacement with multi-story buildings which the available infrastructure cannot accommodate, and in very limited occasions there may be some safety issues in terms of structural integrity of buildings. There are different initiatives to improve the situation. There are those who are concerned with upgrading, and these would mainly be cosmetically improving the situation, or the new build, whether from the government or NGOs, but again these seem to be static and do not respond to the changing needs of the society. As a result, people tend to informally alter and adapt the units and or change the function thereof from residential to non-residential activities. And as you can see in this picture, the buildings are built on agricultural land. A huge waste of resources. The informal construction may mean building a complete new building or add to an existing building, which may increase the area up to 100% of the housing unit. As a result, this may mean privacy infringement in some cases, as well as environmental performance issues and, in limited occasions, structural integrity problems. This unplanned construction and expansion has been reported in many studies to have negative physical and mental effects on the population. When comparing the practices of informal construction to the practices of open building in international examples, it is clear that informal housing has many similarities to open building in terms of allowing mixed use, allowing mixture of construction systems for the same building, allowing different connections to facades, whether these are dry or wet connections, and even the plumbing installations and the building surfaces are not fixed to a specific place and are freely connected. So if we reflect back on the conference titled Appropriate Technology, what does that mean for us in Egypt? In terms of definition, appropriate technology needs to be compatible with the local cultural and economic conditions and be operated and maintained by the local people. So what is appropriate for Egypt and for who specifically? So let's take a quick tour in some examples in Egypt. The pyramids, can we say it used the appropriate technology? And how was the cost then? Hugh Gorna, of the famous architect Hassan Fathi, while he used local material and low-tech construction techniques, the architecture itself was not suitable for the intended people culturally. The Bedouins in the Red Sea tend to build with whatever they find or what is considered waste. Would this be defined as appropriate? Even using local material for construction for Bedouins, this kind of construction was mainly related to the Romans at that time when they were in Egypt. However, using this kind of construction does not reflect the Bedouin culture or identity, in addition to the building being very hot inside. Another example of the government providing housing to the Bedouins, but the vaulted roof is part of the Nubian architecture and does not suit culturally the Bedouins there. And another example, using international fund to build for Bedouins and improve the situation. But again, this kind of construction and architecture does not respond to the climate and has maintenance problems as well. As a result, informal adaptations start to occur. So in the end, some reflections with regards to open building and whether it's appropriate for Egypt or not. Definitely there are potentials, but we need to first determine what is appropriate to meet the increased demand and who can build and on what conditions and which are the codes to allow these kind of construction, how to meet the culture, socioeconomic, maintenance, climate change, etc. How much is it going to cost in the end, and particularly the maintenance should not be complex, and where to get the training and education to achieve a successful open building for Egypt. In the end, I would like to thank you very much for your kind invitation, and I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.